Hello, everyone, and welcome to Europe Cloud Summit. I'm really happy to be with you today to talk about the future of the infrastructure and what's next in our industry. Let me introduce myself first. I'm an engineer with 15 years of experience, mainly on the infrastructure, and I was a CTO of Scaleway, the French cloud provider, and now I'm the founder of Brainboard, which is a solution that allows cloud architects and DevOps people to build and manage the cloud infrastructures in the best way possible. So including infrastructure as code, automation, cloud governance, and so on. Talking about the infrastructure, the first question we might ask is why the future matters, why we need to talk about it now. The reason is we are witnessing a paradigm shift. When we analyze how IT evolved in the last 3 decades, the pattern is clear. We first had on-prem solutions, so where companies had to buy or loan DCs, buy the hardware, do the installations themselves, and run them business on top of that. And with the cloud, that was the first paradigm shift. When we had the cloud, companies started moving into something else. They started moving their workloads into the cloud. So, which means when we talk about the paradigm shift, which means we change the way we operate the infrastructure, but also the tools and solution we have. And that's why we have seen from 2004 into 2020, the explosion of tools, mainly dominated by open source tools, thanks to the community that helped to gain a maturity that allowed companies to be confident to run their workload in the cloud. And now we are witnessing a new paradigm shift. We are moving into something else. This something else will be about ecosystems. So the next natural evolution of the cloud infrastructure based on its history and what's going on now is ecosystems. So why ecosystems? Because the cloud is an obvious choice. It's the by default choice for all companies. Now companies don't bother to buy the hardware or to do anything, any heavy shifting activities. They move into the cloud naturally. The second point is we have created a lot of complexity. So running the cloud and managing the cloud infrastructure is not only complex, but it is costly also. And the third point is because we have 3 distinct element, interconnected element that represent a kind of challenge, and they are still from the creation of the cloud, which are people, processes, and tools. And the question to ask, and that a lot of companies asked and is still asking today, is how can engineers work collaboratively by respecting processes and tools to create and manage cloud infrastructures? This is crucial, and all the companies are still asking the same question and are trying to find different solutions to the very same question. Let's analyze how it is applied into the cloud infrastructure management. So companies need skilled people, qualified cloud architects and DevOps. And these people, to be qualified, they need to learn cloud services. And when we talk about cloud services, we are talking about thousands of services. And engineers, to be able to do their work correctly, they need to master between 30 and 40% of these cloud services. And at the same time, they need to keep up with the new technologies. And the benefit is beyond the personal aspect. Even for organization can benefit from that, because we know that one of the vectors to reduce costs is to use new services, to renew the product, to be able to take advantage of the new prices. And as we are talking about people, collaboration is key. So how these people collaborate together to create and manage cloud infrastructure. So these people within the organization will follow processes and workflows. And generally, workflows are built manually, which means different questions will be asked, and mainly about security, how policies are created and respected. And the main question is who does what and why. And when we talk about the processes, again, it's not a one-shot that we do it, that we finally forget. It's something that lives with the infrastructures and the applications hosted on top of it. The third point is tools, and we have talked about tools and tools. Everyone is talking about tools. We have a lot of tools, but we do not have an ecosystem. And this is one of the major pain points, because cloud engineers combine the tools themselves, create the workflows and the processes to manage the cloud infrastructure. It's like, I see it like a pattern, exactly where companies were doing with on-prem. They bought the DCs, bought the hardware, and people that they had to manage all this complexity do all the hard work themselves. So now let's analyze how IT evolved in parallel of these three challenges. This is what I call it abstractions, because the history that I'm going to tell is about abstractions. We first had the hardware. Then when we realized that the hardware is limited, we created an operating system on top of the hardware. That was the first abstraction. We wanted to extend the capabilities of the hardware. And when we realized again that the operating system is limited, we created on top of it virtual machines. That was a very nice piece of software that extended the capabilities of the operating system and the hardware beneath it. And again, when we realized that the virtual machines are still limited, we created containers, which are wrapping of small concepts inside the virtual machines, inside the operating system, inside the hardware. And that was magical. But again, when we realized that the containers are limited, we created orchestrators like Kubernetes and Nomad and so on. And these orchestrators is one another abstraction on top of containers, virtual machines, operating system, and the hardware. And what is interesting in the history of IT is at a certain point of time, cloud providers came with a magical solution, and they gave us another abstraction. This abstraction is to abstract all the complexity of the hardware and the software and give us services. So we were talking about compute as service, network as service, storage as service, DB as service, everything as a service. And the second cloud provider did the same, and the third the same, and all the battle now in our industry is to provide more for less, because they almost offer all the same services. So this is what I call it, the stacked abstractions. And on top of these abstractions, we are going to put the applications and the customer businesses. So with all this complexity that we have created, we need now to talk about structured cloud infrastructure, because as we are shifting the paradigm, we need to have a structured cloud infrastructures. And this is mainly in two verticals. The first one, what I call it, operational consistency. And the second one is about productivity. So the first one, to be consistent in terms of operations, we need to have a centralized cloud management. And when I'm talking about centralization, is not just centralizing assets, but also people, the skills, the expertise, the way we manage the infrastructure need to be centralized. And with that, we need to have a unique source of truth, because we know now even the most disciplined teams that use automation and infrastructure as code, they can have different sources of truth. It could be in the head of the engineer. It can be in the code. That's why we talk about infrastructure as code, because we want to apply the code principles into the infrastructure. It can be in the console of the cloud providers, or in the bill of the cloud spending, especially the spicy one. And the third point is we need to increase security, because if we do not increase security, and if we do not talk about security by design in our daily operations, we will not take advantage either from the cloud, and the paradigm shift will not be consistent. The second point is the productivity. So to increase our productivity, we need to reduce the dependency between teams. So when I talk about dependency, I'm talking about the bottleneck. We all know that cloud infrastructure team or DevOps teams within organization, they are responsible to provide all the infrastructure to all other teams, which means the other teams rely on them. And by definition, they become the bottleneck. Why the bottleneck? Because the output and the speed of the other teams depends on the output and the speed of the DevOps and cloud architects team. This is why it is important. So, and the next point is moving from the interdependency between teams now within the team. We need to increase collaboration between cloud architects and DevOps people within the same team, which means we want them to have the right solutions, the right tools to work collaboratively and increase their productivity, because the impact is organization-wide. And the third point, this is indisputable, documentation. We need to be providing more quality documentation and working on the documentation as something important, because when we talk about autonomy, security, centralization, we need to make things clear for everyone. So anyone within organization will be able autonomously to find the right documentation, use it, and understand what's going on. So now that's why we need to think about an ecosystem and not technical details. So let's analyze how our way to do things now. I mean, what do we call it, the current situation. So we have cloud product and services. We have a lot of cloud product and services. To manage these products and services, we need tools. Fortunately, we have a lot of tools, but we have really a lot of tools. And what engineers do now, they combine tools with the services to create workflows. And this is what I'm mainly talking about: CI/CD, infrastructure as code, pipelines, and so on. And this is all this point when we talk about technical details. If we shift and we talk about an ecosystem, we'll be talking about high-level design. We'll be talking about documentation, workflows. This is what makes sense to talk about governance and talk about use cases, business use cases, instead of technical details. We'll be talking about security, about controlling costs, and collaboration. So we take our way of doing things into the next level, where we bring more value and create more impact on the business. So this is the end game, is to connect people, processes, and business. How? To empower people, to increase their productivity. And by definition, we lower errors, because we know that if we have a huge quantity of technical details to deal with, we create an error-prone environment. And where we will be moving into a higher level, we reduce errors, because we provide more leverage to engineers to do their work in the best way possible. And these people, when they work with processes, will be having clear governance when we move into this upper level. Clear governance on who does what and why, and that's create business impact. All these points combined create a business impact, because we reduce time to delivery and we create impacts visible from end to end, and not just local to engineers or managers or salespeople or whatever the people that run the business. So again, to summarize it, what's next in our industry is an ecosystem. We need an ecosystem because we are shifting a paradigm. And this ecosystem allows companies to go to the next level of their evolution. Thank you very much. This is what I wanted to talk about the future of our industry and the cloud infrastructure. If you need to discuss these more details about it, feel free to reach me at shafiq.palawes@brainboard.co or on my Twitter or the website of Brainboard. Thanks a lot again, and enjoy your summit. Goodbye.